本日座長を務めますのは、九州大学アジア・オセアニア研究教育機構副機構長兼機構教育統括の原田明先生です。先生、よろしくお願いいたします。
はい、時間になりましたので、九州大学のアジア・オセアニア研究教育機構のブラウンバックセミナー始めたいと思います。初回に接続いただきましてありがとうございます。私、紹介いただきましたが、本機構、以下 QAOS と略させていただきますけれど、QAOS の副機構長の原田です。本日司会を担当します。本日のメイン、バレンタイン教授の講演ですけれど、初回なので3分間程度お時間いただきまして、QAOS とブラウンバックセミナーについて簡単に説明させていただきます。最重要ポイントはですね、最重要ポイントはですね、ウェブ上で QAOS でキーワードとして検索してくださいです。そこでいろんな情報が手に入ります。少し付け加えさせていただきますが、QAOS はアジア・オセアニアを舞台に直面する社会課題の解決と、未来課題の発掘を提示をするため、学際的な活動、それからオンデマンド・オンサイド活動を通じて SDGs、持続可能な開発目標ですが、それとその先にある未来社会を考えるため、九州大学の全学組織として2年前の4月に設置されています。アジア・オセアニアとの交流実績、教育研究活動実績を生かして、世界最高水準のですね、世界最高水準の研究とイノベーションを創出しようとしています。機構の図なんですが、石橋総長を機構長といたしまして、学内100名以上の研究者が集い、研究教育を進めております。その中でですね、最新の研究成果などを分かりやすく発信する、それから皆さんとその成果を共有したいということが大切と考えまして、本セミナーを継続的に開催することを企画しています。日英同時通訳によってより多様な方々に参加いただいて交流の場にしたい、共同のきっかけにしたいとも考えております。そもブラウンバックセミナーなんですが、ランチを入れたブラウンの紙袋片手に気楽に参加できる、そういったセミナーです。皆さんには、積極的に参加いただいて、チャットを使って遠慮なく質問を寄せていただければ幸いです。さて、本日の本題なんですが、サーキュラーエコノミー、大学から民間企業へ、そして再び大学へと題しまして、スコット・バレンタイン教授が講演いたします。バレンタイン教授はこの4月に QAOS の研究推進ディレクターとして着任しています。前職ではオーストラリアロイヤルメルボルン工科大学サステナビリティ都市計画部の副学部長、教授として、サーキュラーエコノミーのトレーニングプログラム開発等を主導されています。それではバレンタイン教授、よろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you, Professor Hirata. Thank you so much during a busy schedule. I know how busy you are for joining the seminar and lending support by providing a very kind introduction. Also, thanks to Professor Shimizu and Professor Yokota for their support in organizing the Brown Bag series. I particularly want to thank Professor Yokota, who has gone out of his way to also do the the Japanese translation, which was really time consuming. So thank you so much for that. Thanks also to Obata-san and the research promotions team for all of their hard work in what I think, aside from the content, is going to be a very successful seminar. I noticed that we have 121 participants. So to those of you who are joining, thank you very much for sharing some of your time. It's truly my pleasure to have an opportunity to discuss the circular economy with you. Now, the topic, circular economy. Can I just make sure that everyone can see my initial slides here? Can someone just confirm that?
We can see it.
Great. So many people today think they know what the circular economy is. So I'd like to ask yourself to reflect on this for a moment. Do you think that you could define it if we asked you to? What is the circular economy? Now, hopefully by the end of today, everyone will have a brand new definition of what it is. I've subtitled my talk From Academic to Practitioner and Back because at QEOS, our research emphasizes two characteristics. We support SDG research that is on-site, or another meaning is in the field, and on demand, which means responding to pressing problems. So the on-site and on-demand work that I have been doing with KPMG in Australia illustrates, I think, how we as academics can undertake effective applied roles. And conversely, it also illustrates how if we get involved in this type of research, we can greatly enhance our own research quality. So if you don't mind, I would like to share my experiences with you in this regard. Since I'm new to Kyushu, I thought maybe I'll have a quick few slides to introduce myself. As you can see, I've lived overseas in many places. And wherever I've lived, I've just had amazing experiences and met truly wonderful people. But my travels have also taught me one thing about sustainability, and that is that all nations have a resource inefficiency problem. Even here in Japan, home to just-in-time management and Kaizen, the levels of inefficiency in most organizations is such that teaching them circular economy principles can increase profits in most large organizations by billions of yen, billions. So down here, you'll probably see from my education background, my circular economy work parallels my background expertise. My main research interests in the circular economy from public policy include, how can we effectively create policy to support circular economy? The second one is my doctorate in business. I work on how can we create effective strategies within companies to allow them to take advantage of the circular economy. And finally, I'd like to point out my education background because I believe that we can apply education technology to address capacity building challenges. And today I'm going to show you how I do that in terms of building capacity for the circular economy in government circles. You can see maybe a bit from the universities that I've been involved in, but from a research perspective, I was predominantly an energy researcher. Now, energy and research have a lot in common, actually. They involve complicated networks with numerous competing technologies, entrenched investment, and maybe most importantly, entrenched behavior. And if you want to be an effective practitioner in either the energy or circular economy field, you need to think like a jazz musician. You need to be prepared to improvise as the situations change. Now, 18 months ago, I was asked to join KPMG, this top organization. to help them set up their circular economy advisory services. And in many ways, this was a job that allowed me to bring all of my past research and competencies together. You know, from my work down here with the British Council, I knew how public officials think. From my work in setting up my own organizations, I knew how entrepreneurs and business leaders think. And of course, from my academic background, I had a foundation of knowledge where I believe I understood how the circular economy could be made to work. Now, at KPMG, my team, it works with really, some of Australia's largest corporations, and I was very pleased to have been a part of that organization. We also worked with government leaders and policymakers to advise them on how to design circular economy strategy. So for an academic, such as myself, this has been a wonderful chance to gain access to top decision makers. But really, my academic foundation is what allowed me to be successful. My crazy background that has experiences everywhere allows me to speak the language of businesses and governments and provide research that's effective when it comes to circular economy. So in the course of my time in Australia, I was appointed as chair of the Australian National Circular Economy Hub, which is Australia's national circular economy body. And I was invited to represent Standards Australia on the International ISO committee working on a circular economy standard. So I still serve in these roles, and these roles would not have been possible without my involvement as a practitioner. So please excuse me, I wanted to bore you with my background, both to introduce myself, but also to encourage maybe younger academics who are early in your career to explore on-site, on-demand research. Our work, I believe, should have social relevance, but most importantly, the benefits to you as researchers will be extensive. Okay, so on with the show. Today, I wanted to introduce you to my model for guiding municipal and regional governments in the design of circular economy strategy. You'll hopefully see from my approach that each stage has different elements to it. Maybe I'll have a short Japanese commercial if I can. So maybe 日本にいらっしゃっている研究者に、ちょっと特別お願いがありますが、もし私の研究について、興味があれば、ぜひご連絡してください。私はもう、10年ぶりぐらいで日本語を喋る機会がなくて、サビが出たほど悪くなりましたけれども、普通の、理解は結構だと思いますので、ぜひ、ご連絡してください。So that's my Japanese commercial. Those of you who don't speak Japanese and are curious as to what I said, I will just say to you, this is why you should learn Japanese. Okay. So what was your definition of the circular economy in your own mind? Here is mine. And I apologize, this slide is not on the Japanese slides. I've added this at the last minute. So to me, the prime goal of the circular economy is this: resource efficiency, optimizing resource efficiency. And there's two ways to do this, either from the output side or the input side. So here's an example. Here's a baseline case. We have a company that is using $500,000 to produce $1 million worth of revenue. In strategy one, the cost side, we can try to reduce costs and keep the revenue the same. And if we do that, we improve the resource efficiency. by double. In strategy 2, the revenue efficiency strategy, we can take the baseline case and aim to creatively build new markets for our existing products using the same cost base. And by doing so, we have the exact same impact. This, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, is the primary goal of the circular economy, is maximizing competitiveness for industries. And if we can do this, because we are reducing resource usage, we are also enacting a more sustainable economic strategy. Okay, so how do we enact or optimize resources? How do you do it? Well, this resource hierarchy shows us where the real gains are, I think. Higher up here, reduce, reuse. Let me give you an example to explain why this resource hierarchy helps us to understand circular economy strategies better. Imagine I have a computer that's broken. I want to compare two strategies. Strategy 1 is I'm going to take my computer to a repair shop. Here, repair. Strategy 2 is I'm so angry, I want to recycle it. I throw it away and it's going to go into a recycling bin, and they will create a new computer and I will purchase that computer. Okay, now think about the costs involved in this. If I wanted to repair my computer, I take my computer to a repair shop. The cost is really my time, my labor, the time of the person who is doing the repairs, some small parts that they might repair, and the time to bring the computer home. That's it. Now let's look at a recycling strategy. Same broken computer. Take the computer, I throw it in a bin. The bin gets collected, goes to a recycling facility. So already transportation costs. In the facility, labor, capital, time, resources are used to take the computer apart, and each part is separated and sent to another resource processing facility. So another cost. In each of the resource processing facilities, you have time, labor, equipment, more costs to take the product and make it back into resources that we can use. Then those resources go to another company, more costs. In that company, they create computer components using these recycled products. Then they send it to another company who assembles the computer, more time, more cost. Then it goes to a retail store, more time, more cost. Do you see what I mean? The costs of recycling are extremely high. This is why recycled things cost so much. And it is why recycling is one of the last things that you want to do in a circular economy. What you would prefer to do is to repair or reuse the products because the benefits are the same. In my example, we repaired a computer, we recycled a computer. At the end, I got the same thing back, a computer that works the way that I want. One cost more, one cost less. That's the difference in the circular economy. Okay, so what does a circular economy look like? Please ignore this. This is just for reference, and you can read it after if you prefer. But I'd like you to have a look at this diagram here. This diagram is my attempt to explain how the circular economy works. So here we have refuse and reduce of virgin resources. This is the sustainability side. We are trying not to use resources from, our environmental endowments. However, when the resources are in the system, we are constantly trying to loop them back to reuse them. With that said, the goals at the beginning are still the same. refuse or reduce resources. Why? Because there's more profit if we can simply learn to use resources better. Once we've done that, here's our resource hierarchies again. So both for producers and for consumers, they're practicing the same thing. For producers, they are trying to first reduce, then reuse, then repair, then remanufacture. If they can't do any of that, they go down and recycle. The same thing with consumers. We try to encourage consumers to reduce, then reuse, then repair. Why? Because there's more value added if we encourage them to do this. Now, all of these arrows here represent different strategies that policymakers and that companies can adopt in order to encourage this type of circularity in the economy. And if we do this right, we can create an economy that is far more efficient. Now, how efficient? Well, a study by McKinsey looked at Europe, and they concluded that improving resource efficiency by only 3% would yield 600 million euro in added resource profits, plus another 1,800 billion euro, so 1,800 billion euro in added economic activity. So almost $2 trillion worth of benefit from 3%. Now, how does this work? How can municipalities design these types of strategies to benefit from these opportunities? Well, here is a roadmap that I use when I am advising governments. So the first step is to understand what stakeholders want and to undertake an analysis of what materials we can be working with. We call this a materials flow analysis. So once we do that, we know what materials, who's going to be involved. The second step is to bring them together to construct a vision. So how are we going to all participate and make this work? Now, once you've constructed the vision, the next step is to train the people that are involved to benefit from the vision. So that's step 3, the anchor initiatives. We take the largest companies and show them how to develop profitable circular economy models. Then once we do that, we move to step 4, which is really taking SMEs, smaller companies, and connecting them as bridge companies back into the larger companies that are involved. So here, the smaller companies play an innovator and a service role. They actually provide the businesses that support the circular economy. And then finally, at the end, we talk about how do we connect university R&D, public funding programs, retail space, social ventures, etc. So this is the roadmap. Easier said than done, maybe, right? Let me show you how we make this roadmap work. So the first step, this one here, is this, aspirational futures. Okay. Now, the goal of the circular economy is not to make circles. The goal is to make society better through better economic planning. So the first step in any democratic society is to understand what citizens actually want. And this can be done through participative consultation. So you ask people about what kind of environment would you like to live in? What type of relationships would you like to have with people and communities? When you talk about desirable work, hataraki gai ga aru, when you talk about desirable work, what does that look like? And this allows you, when you have people from the community and business leaders participating, this allows you to create what we call city narratives. And city narratives are the things that make people excited about achieving something. So when you have a positive city narrative, you can get people to get involved because they're inspired to get involved. Now, here is an example of what happens after that, because once you set a narrative, you understand what you are trying to achieve, you can then start to put some targets together to achieve, to support this narrative. So here's an example of a company that we are working with in Melbourne. And for that company, they set targets such as X amount number of new businesses. They want to focus on unique retail opportunities. They wanted to focus on social impact businesses. They want to have more. They want to focus on more educational impact. So they want to have applied courses. They want to have an innovation space for new entrepreneurs. They want to have a sense of community belonging and connectedness. So they're going to set goals to all of this. Now, this is important to set these goals because it's easier to sell the vision to senior government planners, and it's easier to procure funding when you have these types of targets. So once you've set the goals, you can then begin to construct your circular economy world. So the first step is an economic analysis of your business case. So here's an example of an approach that KPMG has used in the past for helping helping governments to estimate the value of the circular economy. They do a materials flow analysis to look at what materials are currently in the marketplace and what is their value. They do a scenario analysis that looks at how can we then build new profitable companies using these resources. We then look at a business industry analysis. What are the new types of activities that can be created under a circular economy? And if you add all of this up, 1 + 2 + 3, you get a business case that you can quantify. And this is the business case that policymakers need in order to raise funds to take the next steps. Okay. So to continue on with an example from Hume, I'd like to give you an example of how they started to conceptualize their circular economy. So Hume has somewhere around 20,000 businesses in their city, and they have many industries. And so they were looking at, how can we connect our recycling businesses, our advanced material repurposing businesses together and be effective. So we discovered that we need to also design a materials marketplace, somewhere where you can go online and purchase, buy, and sell these types of materials. So here's the materials. We have the materials in the system. Next step, who is going to do something with the materials? So you have to have training programs, and this is the right side, top right. So you need to train entrepreneurs, create maker spaces, create events to encourage them, give them ideas. You need to have capacity building programs to teach people how to build capacity and to create circular economy strategies. Once you've done this, you've got people who are taking this material. What are they going to do? Well, they need to have support for their business ideas. So now we go to the bottom left. This is where you need to have circular economy innovation hubs where entrepreneurs can come and create new ideas, new business ideas. You need to have support. So this is what multiversity is. This is part of a university. You need to have universities supporting these innovation hubs through R&D. In Hume, they wanted to have more social impact businesses. So they wanted to ensure that their circular plan includes this type of business. And so now what we've got is we've got materials being used by people who now have ideas, and these ideas need a place to be sold. And that's what the bottom right is. So we need to have community spaces to inform customers about circular economy products. We need to have retail spaces that are fun for people to shop in. We need to have online virtual retail spaces and community hubs. So these are all the marketplaces that give these people a chance to sell their ideas. So in this example, this was the ecosystem for a circular precinct. Now, creating a vision is required after this, because even though you have some ideas, you have to get people excited. You have to create champions. And here is where really my work as an academic and as an educator has been useful. So at KPMG, we've created this system where we have a program. And so the team is currently still running this type of program. And the idea is to bring people into a room. So here's the program on the right. I won't talk about the left. I'll only talk about the program here. So the idea is bring people into a room, industry, recyclers, advanced material recycling companies, university people. And what you do is you give them an introduction to what you are trying to achieve, everything I've told you to this point. And then you give them an education. And for me, the education was delivered in the past through online learning. So we help them understand what the circular economy is, what different elements of the circular economy are. So Kaizen, design thinking. And then we have them construct circular economy roadmaps. And once they create the maps, we then go back into workshops. This is the bottom. And in the workshops, they present their maps, they critique it, and they identify best practice. And this allows them as a team together to create one unified circular economy plan. And so here's some examples of, some outputs. So here is an example of a mapping exercise that we employed in rural region in Australia. And as you can see here on the left, we've got the linear economy, take, make, dispose, and all of the problems that are associated with this. On the right is the vision for the future. So what are we trying to achieve here? Locally sourced materials, communities that are vibrant, biodiversity, looping of resources. So this is the vision that has been encapsulated for this valley. This is the type of vision that people can get behind, not circles, but something meaningful. Here is an example of the same type of mapping, not so nice, with an urban center. So this is the city of Hume, and I'll go back here. Basically, what we've done is we've taken this, all of this, and we've turned it into a map to understand where the relationships are. So here's our advanced materials repurposing. Here's our, recycling companies, right? Here is a materials marketplace for buying and selling. All of this material is coordinated by the municipal waste management, which sends the material to an innovation space. So who innovates again? Remember, it's the people, right? So we take a innovation hub called Start North. They train local businesses. KPMG helps them through their programs. And we create businesses that are capable of innovating. So when we innovate, they need a place to sell the materials to, and we begin to think about the materials in the circular economy. So here's another example of, how we as academics can get involved. Once this type of image has been created, we need to teach companies how to play a profitable role in this. So here's another program called Circular Pioneers. Again, I won't talk about the left, but on the right, the idea is to teach companies how to create effective, profitable circular economy strategies. So they go through a number of different modules online, Kaizen modules, design thinking modules, and they create these roadmaps for their own companies. And these roadmaps receive awards. And the roadmaps are the things that get corporate leaders excited. Once they have this knowledge, they can then begin to create their own circular economy strategies. And that fits in, go back up here, that fits into this. So now all of these companies are starting to create circular economy strategies to make sure they're successful. Now I'll show you one other final quick example because I know time is short. So what is the role for small businesses? Well, again, we as academics have an opportunity to create programs to teach small businesses how to benefit from the circular economy. So here's an example of a circular economy program. Again, I won't cover this, but on the right here, you can see here's the Kaizen, here's design thinking. And what we do here is we introduce to these companies materials that are provided from other companies so they can start to think about playing a bridging role. I can give you an example of that. In Melbourne, we had a truss manufacturer. So a truss is the frame, the wooden frame that is created to build a house, okay? So you've got these wooden frames, but in the process, you create a lot of wood waste. And when you create wood waste, in Australia, believe this or not, people pay to throw it away. So here we need a company to take that wood waste and create a new product. If we can do that, we have added value to the system and we have added a new company. Now, you probably, I don't know if I can share the background. I'd have to change my background, which will take too much time, I think. But I'd just like to show you an example of this. If you look carefully here, this is an example of the circular economy in action. What this is, are you ready? An acoustic tile. If you look really carefully, and sorry, maybe you can't see this so well because my background, try to get that there. If you look very carefully at this, what you can see, maybe hold this up here, is in between the wood, there are spaces. And so in these spaces, what you'll find is that, sorry, I'm just trying to, maybe I can close my background down. None, there. Okay, and you can see the spaces. And so in the spaces, what you can see there is that the sound comes in and it starts to die because it gets absorbed. This is made only from wood waste. So here's the type of company that can act as a bridging company in the circular economy with that type of material. Okay, I'll go back to my lovely background. Aren't you disappointed? Didn't you think that I was actually doing this from my beautiful house? I wish. Okay, so in closing, I'd just like to highlight the power of online learning and the role that we can play when we are thinking about on-site, on-demand research. We have the ability through our learning technologies. I use a technology called Moodle. which has connected chat, fun environments, discussion boards, multimedia activities, real-time analytics. I put all of this together in a program that makes it interesting for companies to learn. We have that ability at Kyushu University to deliver this type of training for on-site, on-demand needs. So I'll close with this. In terms of testimonials, you've got a sheet on this. I just wanted to make the point that in education, we have a huge role to play in applied economic development. We have researchers who can solve problems and design new scientific innovations. Some of us have experience in moderating projects. And last but not least, as educators, many of us possess the know-how to create positive training experiences. So for me, this education component is a key part of the on-demand, on-site research that we can be doing with communities. So thank you very much for your time. Okay, I'll end there. And here, by the way, is my...
どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
チャットで質問もいただいてるんですけれど、ちょっと答えていただいている時間がもうなさそうなので、これらの質問についてはウェブなり何なりで答えるということで、今日は本当にありがとうございました。なんかもサーキュラーチャンピオンプログラムですかね。非常に面白いなと思いながら聞いております。どうもありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。教えることも本当に、楽しいんですよね。そういうリーダーたちと一緒に。
お願いしすぎましたね。
あ、そう。OK。
またお願いいたします。
OK。Do we have any other, so thank you for your insightful. So I'll just, if it's okay, I'll try to take some of the questions in the chat. And oh boy. Wow, thank you so much. You had so many interesting comments. Okay, so Brendan Barrett, who's from Osaka University. So hi, Brendan. Thank you for joining us. Brendan's a professor at Osaka University in sustainability. He says, how do you deal with the cross-boundary movement of goods and resources? For instance, most computers come from outside your region. Great question. That is the goal of the circular economy, is to create local. So we want to create supply chains that are local, not overseas. If we can do that, we can build jobs, meaningful jobs in our own areas. So that to me is the most important goal of the circular economy. If you think about this, if we had a circular economy and COVID hits, we don't have so much problems because international supply chain disruptions don't disrupt our economic activities. So, okay, skip, okay. Sorry about this. I'm just trying to go through some. So, so here's a question. 時間ありますか？どうですか？原田先生。
なんか質疑応答興味尽きないと思いますので、
Okay.
今回はここで
So folks, you all have some great questions. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to get to them, but how about this? Send me an email. Let's continue the discussion offline. I'm so grateful that so many of you are interested in this. And once again, thanks to Professor Hirata for kindly moderating this, to the team for setting this up. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for taking time and an effort to come. Definitely look forward to working with you in the future. はい、
またの機会をお願いするんじゃないかと思いますので、よろしくお願いします。
はい、よろしくお願いします。
事務局の方からアナウンスが多分。
はい、ではこれにて終了とさせていただきます。原田先生、バレンタイン先生、ありがとうございました。少しお時間過ぎておりますけれども、まだご参加いただける方は、あと1分ほどお付き合いいただければありがたく思います。まず次回に関しましては、来週の水曜日の12時、同じ時間ですね、に、当機構の横田文彦先生から、ポストコロナとアジア超高齢化社会にも見据えた遠隔予防医療サービスについてご発表いただきます。詳細はホームページに後ほど1時過ぎ頃に掲載させていただきますので、また今日の夕方にでもご覧いただければ非常にありがたく存じます。